Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to Comic Book Team Up with RJ and I. We alternate back and forth between the fourth age, and then I guess this is the lazy age over here with John. And I was just thinking that snappy, peppy music is wrong. We got RJ, who's like a college level theologian, and we got Robert, who's an art professor at college level. I should have like Gregorian chant music or something.
That's right. And we should all be wearing laurel leaves.
Oh, there you go. And we should say things like sublime, indubitably. Very poignant. Very poignant.
Well done.
I've already listened to my Gregorian chant for the day, so sorry.
Very nice.
Got my pinky extended for my coffee. This is going to be an intellectual talk here.
I have my intellectual seltzer.
Oh, there you go. And RJ is wearing his hair shirt and whipping himself appropriately.
Wow, very nice.
How you doing, Wayne? Good to see you. Love seeing new names. How you doing?
Hey, Wayne. Good to see you.
So let's figure out who everybody is. I'm John, and I have a campaign called Heroic Tales. It's on Fund My Comic.
Awesome.
We're doing pretty good. My first campaign, just under $5,000. I also launched on Kickstarter. Just because I don't know what I'm doing, so I figured I'll try Kickstarter too. And I have a variant cover on Kickstarter. I have a variant cover on Fund My Comic. That's
cool.
Each campaign has their own unique stuff to go look at.
I like
RJ,
it.
you have Crom the Destroyer right now. That is that your only active campaign?
You can get into the Valiant Heroes right now, but we're shipping out the last books within the next couple of weeks, so you're gonna have to jump on that.
Yeah, I just got my Valiant Heroes. I got the graphic novel collection, and then I got the individual floppies because that's the kind of guy I am.
Very nice.
And then we have Geronimo's Dawn of the Wolf, Blood Realm.
That's right.
And tell us about this.
Oh, this is the next chapter in my Blood Realm comic series. It's a dark fantasy series inspired by, you guys know if you've heard, well, probably not, history. It's inspired by mythology, religion, all the fun stuff that I love. And I'm an art history professor as well. So all of that stuff ends up being great source material for my storytelling.
Yeah.
I only got a chance to buy I think it was the second run you did with Alterna. It might have been the first because my comic shop that sold Alterna closed down. But I saw what I did buy. It seemed to be the first stuff, anyways. Very much Nordic inspired in the mythological realm. Is that what you were going for?
If you were following so I'm trying to think, if it was the second, you were probably following the Satrians, who are that goat race south of the region. And they're inspired by a little bit of that Nordic vibe,
right?
Aesthetic, yeah. So that's probably the one that you got. Very cool.
Yeah, I like you include a fantasy map. I bought the cloth map. I'm such a geek for fake maps, you know. But
It's
then again,
a real
I realized
map. It's a real place.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's not a fake map because it's a real map of a fake place. So it is a real map.
I go there every day.
Yeah, you go there every day. Yeah, that explains a lot. I've seen some of your paintings. It makes sense now.
It does.
And I bet you crossing over the Verrazano Bridge, every day, that causes a lot of these nightmare visions.
Well, that's what it's really therapeutic. It's because of the commute that I have to write this.
So guys, buy Blood Realm because you're keeping Robert Geronimo from letting
Road
these
rage.
fantasies intrude upon the real world. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
Between the Belt Parkway and the Verrazano, it's amazing that your car's not covered in blood.
I got the dings and dents, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, the world's longest parking lot, the Belt Parkway.
It's true. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm so glad I moved out of Queens.
Yeah, I hear you.
You keep the crazy in check. Yes.
Thank you.
So we might as well ask this then. What inspired Blood Realm?
Oh,
I know you
boy.
said it's inspired by art and everything like that, but there has to be
Okay. So what inspired Blood Realm? Well, I have to say, in terms of stories that I grew up with as a kid, I was always fascinated by grand epics like The Lord of the Rings, naturally, and the Hobbit movie really did it for me. Clash of the Titans, that old movie with
love that. I saw that in the movies like 3 or 4 times.
it's incredible. You know, if I ever need some inspiration, You know, I throw that movie on, and Ray Harryhausen just
Oh
he
yeah,
never
Jason and the
fails.
Argonauts. How many times did you watch that?
Oh
Art,
my
you know
god!
you love that movie.
Oh, I love that movie. The movie's incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, those movies did it for me. You know,
I was
and
always
my
Sinbad the Sailor Man myself, just Harryhausen, just
oh yeah, I love those too. I watched all those as a kid. I would rent those all the time. And
There's something for you young people. You just said you rent those. Does
yes,
does anybody get that?
true. I
Us
know.
all the oldinsons over here.
I rented the VHS tape.
We went to a store and paid in cash. Got these boxes of
These rectangular boxes that we put in a
and
VCR.
if we turned them in 3 days. They charged us money.
And you had to rewind the tape.
Yep.
Oh man. So yeah, and my love of history, my love of art, you know, and of course also growing up Catholic as well. There's a lot of different traditions, you know, and really thick, rich history, biblical history that always fascinated me when I would read about stories of Samson just fighting a
Were
legion
you an
of
altar
men.
boy?
I was an altar boy. Yes,
RJ, you were an altar boy too, right?
no, I was never an altar.
Oh, I was going to say 3 altar boys, and not one of us was molested. So let's put that rumor to bed, okay? I wasn't good enough.
Oh my god. Oh my
I liked candy. I don't know.
Poor John. Poor John. Wow.
The video
So-
store. I worked in a video store. I worked at a comic book store. You know, I did it all. Did it all. And I'm starting to realize that comic book stores might be relics of the past soon. You know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you could kind of see things going that way, you know. But yeah, and but why a comic? It's because I just love comics, and when I was a kid getting my first comic, it was unlike anything that I had ever seen before. It wasn't like the storybooks I was reading when I was a kid. This was moving pictures. It was, you know, because storybooks kind of feel still and static, but the sequential art, those moving pictures, just fired me up, and I was like, I want to do this. In fact, I remember on one of those days, I don't know if it was 4th or 5th grade, we had to put on the board what we wanted to be when we were older. And I was the only one to put a comic book artist. And everyone looked at me like, what is that? You want to, what? What do you want to do? Everyone's putting cop, fireman, president, astronaut. I was like, comic book artist.
Oh, cool. I got to address Old Dirty Fat. He says, John, you're good enough for me. I don't know if I'm flattered or creeped out by that.
There you go. With a name like Old Dirty Fatty, you have nothing to worry about, John.
Now, there'll always be stores that sell comics, but yes, absolutely. I got to agree with Richard C. Meyer, your boy Zach. He's like, you know, when you say something, people take the extreme interpretation of it and then attack you using it.
Sure.
When comic book store, there will always be stores that sell comics because, you know, I've been lamenting the death of comics now for the past couple of years. But what I'm talking about is, you know, it went from this big circle,
yeah,
it's zeroing in, and
it has
you know,
changed. The landscape has changed.
You know, to be serious for a second, it's a unique American art form.
It is.
It's like jazz going away. It's like baseball going away. Can you imagine if baseball was going away? I think all the baseball players would unite and do something about it. Comic books are going away, and everybody's fighting. This guy's fighting this guy. This guy. It's like, dude. It's we're watching crabs in a bucket fight as the water is boiling. How's that? I'm very eloquent sometimes.
It is very eloquent. I'm impressed, I have to say.
A bit of a sidetrack on that, John. I heard just recently that 7-Eleven is revamping all of its stores in the U.S. to make them more according to their Japanese versions, which still sell manga. So I'm hoping that 7-Elevens will have comic books back in them one day.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like when you say comic books, which comic books? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
If they have comics, they're going to have Marvel and DC. But
yeah,
if they
and
have manga,
that's over.
I'll be happy because manga now is the gateway drug to comics. You know,
is it? I don't know. I don't think they're leaving. I think they stay in manga. Personally.
I would prefer people reading my comic book, then your comic, then RJ's comic. But if that ain't going to happen, if people are reading manga, you know, there's still hope that American style comic books because will be around. I don't know, because reading. I want people to read. You know,
Oh,
I read
sure.
novels, I
But
read comics.
not many people do that now. Believe me, you could
Oh,
see
I
the
know.
papers that I get from my students. Yeah,
That
it's
brings
very
up an
sad.
interesting point that's connected to your book. You do a lot of, well, as far as I can remember, as far as I have read, but there's a lot of silent panels and there's a lot
Oh,
of silent art telling the story in your
mhm.
books. So is that a conscious decision on your part, or you just do it because that's what the story demands?
It's a conscious decision because one thing that I love about comic books is that it's also a visual medium. I think some of these writers tend to forget that, and they're just over explaining and describing what's already drawn. The famous phrase, "A picture's worth 1,000 words," and sometimes you have to pull back. There's a balance. No one could just be a comic book writer. They think it's so easy, but then when you realize that you have to force yourself to really pull back and say, you know what, I need to let the picture sing here because this is a visual medium as well. And I think that's something that people often forget. So it is conscious because I want that moment to really be expressed in the art itself and not having me to describe it in words, then it gets redundant.
Well, you're talking to, I write, I can't draw to save my life, and RJ can barely do anything. But we both write comics. But you write and draw. So like I have to we both have Renzo Rodriguez doing some of our comic. Well, he's doing all my comics. He's doing and he's so good that I feel like, okay, he's accurately drawing what I put in the script. I don't need a bunch of words. Right. But you have control of this. So do you think it would be easier for you to just let the art do the speaking? Like RJ, you think it's like an ego thing? You just want to put words because you're the writer, and you know what I mean? Somebody else is doing the art.
For me, I'll just say that I did an 8-page silent story within the Valiant Heroes. Now, I know a lot of people didn't like it or didn't understand it, but I thought it was time to just test the waters on that because I do think that the art can speak for itself.
Okay. So Robert, have you ever drawn somebody else's script?
When I was starting out, I was doing freelance, and I used to think nobody wants to hear my stories and read my stories. It's so weird how we do that to ourselves. When we're a kid, we want everybody to see our pictures and our stories, and then suddenly we become adults, and now it's like, oh, nobody wants to read this. We get very self-deprecating,
right?
And I would just illustrate other people's stories, and it was miserable. I hated it. Just for me, I know some people who like it. I have friends who work freelance and they enjoy it. That they're not storytellers. But I realized within me it was frustrating because when I would read these scripts and I would draw it, I'd be like, this should be like this. You know what I mean? I was like,
see, that's what I was going to get to. Do you think that if you like, dude, just trust me. You don't need extra words. Trust me. That's,
Yeah. Yeah. See, when I work with an artist, because Blood Realm is getting so big and so epic and so grand now that I need some help telling these little pockets of storylines here. While I'm telling the big grand epic, that I would like some other artists to come in there and kind of just give a little different visual flair to break it up a little bit. But I let them do their thing. I don't go overboard with describing panels because at the end of the day, a comic book artist is trained to be a visual storyteller, and that's something that needs to be trusted. And sometimes they come up with things that really surprise me. That I'm like, whoa, you just gave me such an idea, and if someone's going to be so just incredibly I would say, almost oppressive in their panel description, in their overall script, those little moments are not going to be able to come through,
I know Renzo. I have a bad guy. He's a bank robber. He's like a 30s gang bank robber, like babyface Nelson, just in broad daylight, whatever. And I just told him he's got 3 hot chick sidekicks. That was the script, and he drew it, and then he started making one of these characters like more real. So now I'm like, I have a story based on this one of the female characters that I hope I could get to someday because the way Renzo drew it and the face acting of this one character, she started out of the 3 of them. This one really stuck out, and I know RJ, you have the same thing with Kit Fox, right? RJ,
oh, definitely, yeah. I was just going to use him as a faux Batman throwaway character, but Renzo just poured his heart and soul into it and said, "Can we redeem this villain character and make him a hero? Because I want to do more of this." And I said, "Yeah, let's do that."
That's good. You want that working relationship with your. It's really important. Believe me, when you work with an artist that you can gel with like that and be comfortable to bounce off ideas like that, and maybe he may not be afraid to say, "Hey, you know what? I think this panel can be bigger because this is a really important moment." It's like you want that. You want that because he needs to really also get the vibe of your story. At the end of the day, you're like a director. You know what I mean? And you're guiding the visual storytelling. As if someone's doing the full writer part.
I like Dr. Mast's comment right here.
That's true too, Dr. Mast. There's a balance.
Yeah. I think we could all agree that those early Stan Lee comics, maybe they had a little too much verbiage, and definitely those Chris Claremont X-Men's had a little bit. But yet at the same time, we remember them.
And them, yeah.
And I always pick on Brian Bendis, and rightfully he deserves it. But like his whole Avengers, I remember complaining. I just paid $4.99 and I'm done with this comic. Like,
right.
And they're just like, well, you're supposed to stare at the art. Yeah, I am looking at the art, but there's, so yeah, there is a fine line.
Honestly, I think that fine line was John Byrne in She-Hulk, because he would do splash pages and literally say, "This is the only time you're going to see this. I'm not drawing it again. Drink it in."
Yeah, there you go. That could be.
Patchlita, The Power of Different Perspective. It's one thing to tell you epic, getting a fresh, like I remember specifically, I gave Renzo a 5-panel script, and when he gave it back to me, it had 9 panels, and he was absolutely right.
Wow, look at that!
Absolutely, and he did close-ups. Yeah, he did. He's the visual guy. I'm the word guy. You know what I mean? So of course, I got to redo dialogue and words when I get to, but that's
fun though. Sometimes
he's absolutely right.
Yeah. Those are the things like you have to allow as often as people say it. With Bob Ross, those happy little accidents.
Happy little accidents.
It's the truth. That's where some of that magic comes. The stuff that you don't expect. So much of the stuff that has happened in Blood Realm, even like character design was just an accident.
Right. I've seen you painting. And you're like, I like this character, and you would just make it some nightmare monster, and next thing it's going to be in. Yeah, I've seen you do it live. It was fun.
A lot of the characters. Go ahead. Sorry.
Do you do the colors as well?
I do. I do the gray tones and the red. Yeah.
Okay, a little self-serving here because I'm working on a book right now. We have the first issue done. It's called Fade to Blue. Basically, the character is covered in flame a lot of the time, but it's blue. So I was thinking of doing it because it's black and white. My artist is completely black and white, and I was thinking maybe we could do it in black and white. Maybe we could do it with shades of blue in there as well. But what I thought when I was thinking about it, I think about Blood Realm, right? With your red, right? So that's the kind of thing that I love that kind of way that comics can tell a story that no other medium can, in those tricky little ways.
That's the truth. Exactly. That's what sets it apart from everything else. And like you said too, John, it's Americana. People don't realize how uniquely American comics are. Now granted, there's been sequential storytelling all across art history, absolutely, but comic books, that is
it's American.
Something very special. Yeah.
They always say baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet. Get rid of the Chevrolet. Well, baseball, apple pie, and comics, and jazz.
The Chevrolet. Yeah. I hear you. Absolutely.
Could you imagine if jazz was, I don't know about jazz guys, but like I could imagine like jazz guys would have concerts and stuff like that and talk about the history instead of fighting with one another.
I hate to, I'll say this. It's been rotten for a while, even before the fall, I have to say, John. It has been.
It's funny because I'll read like old interviews that I didn't care about interviews of comic creators when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I just wanted to see Spider-Man punching, the thing and stuff like that, and Galactus.
Right.
And then, I'm reading interviews with John Byrne. John Byrne hated Jim Shooter, and like he took everybody out to dinner the day Jim Shooter got fired. I'm like, but Jim Shooter made some of the best comic book. You know what I mean? Like,
of course he did. He was a great businessman.
Right. I had this imaginary thing in my head that they were like whistling and there was doves flying around in Marvel. Sure. You know what I mean?
I interned at Marvel when I was in college.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And There certainly is a lot of that stuff. And, and when you have artists and people in general who are not getting paid, you know what I mean, enough and well, that's why when you compared it to baseball, I don't know, especially lately, I don't know too many professionals who are making the salary that a baseball player is. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're going to be up in arms. They have an expensive lifestyle they need to keep up.
Baseball pulls in the bucks,
Yeah. Doesn't mean comics can't, you know what I mean? But
we do have a bunch of millionaire comic book guys,
Yeah. It's unfortunately the industry was managed. Was neither here. Was managed poorly. You know what I mean? And a couple of people came in and did what they did, but unfortunately, people after that didn't. So it's unfortunate.
So what years were you interning?
I was there. Let's see. I was there. Was that 2007? When did the first Iron Man movie come out? Because they let us go to the one of the New York premieres for that. It was
wow.
Really cool.
That's when I was Marvel's electrician. I wonder if like
you imagine I'm sitting there in the bullpen and
I wonder if you saw me pulling wire, bending over with my butt crack sticking out.
Probably. Isn't that funny?
In my defense, you would recognize my butt crack.
I would absolutely.
That's
My goodness.
Because my shop they had a contract with that whole building that Marvel was in, so
yeah,
I was like, please let Marvel call. Did Marvel? So when they put in the call, they're like, John's going, and I was like, boom, and I was like, this is miserable. Like the carpet was dirty, the lights were flickering. There was like 100 people put to a cubicle.
Yeah, I was in there. I was in there.
Yeah, and I remember there was like the guy who was the liaison between like the electricians and plumbers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Marvel, he was showing me around. He goes, this is all the interns. This is this.
Yeah, I must have been like,
they all look like Gollum. They all just like,
yeah, just illuminated by the screen.
Yeah, they had like these lights up, and one of them was out, and one of them was flickering, and I was just like, oh man, I was so disappointed.
Telling me. But it was.
They were having a meeting about the next event, and they were like, we got to do Inhumans, and they were talking about the group editor who was standing. Everybody was in the chair, and I literally have a ladder right there. I'm up with the drop ceiling, and I'm doing splices, and I'm listening to this, and he's talking about how the Inhumans debuted in the Avengers, and blah blah. And I'm just like, I can't say anything. I'm on company time.
Now you're wondering why things are the way they were. You had people who didn't really care. That's
RJ, and you guys must have seen Annie Hall when the guy's going on and on and on.
Oh, I remember that.
Marshall
with the comics.
I happen to have Marshall McEwen over here, and I felt like getting off the ladder. The Inhumans debuted in Fantastic Four. You have no business being a group editor.
You come down, spectacles off, spotlight, please. Okay, now listen.
I'm going to school you all guys about your jobs, and you should hire me.
But you were surprised. You see, now it makes sense.
It was visible. And then like a couple, so that was around 2007. And then when when Diversity in Comics started, he was asking for insight. So I was telling him all my stories about working at.
Oh my goodness!
So
there you go.
That's my claim to fame.
Yeah, listen, no, but it was a great experience because I got to see how the sausage was made.
Yeah, and
I realized that part of the making of the sausage was not for me, not that way. That's how I was like, okay, I still love comic books.
Right.
But this isn't the factory I want to work in.
It's funny because I always wanted to write comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to write the Fantastic Four. After that, I'm like, I was still collecting Marvel, but I'm like, I don't want to work here.
I didn't want to work there either.
Because I'm like, I'm going to end up hating it, and then I'm going to hate the Fantastic Four, and then I'm going to hate comics.
Yes,
but this was before I knew about Comicsgate and Alterna and all these.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what do I do? It was like an existential crisis.
Right? No, of course, no, because it was new territory, new ground for everybody. And you're so used to depending on those few companies.
Right.
But when you see that they were rotting, it's like, well, what do we do now?
And RJ, you were already done with comics. Like you said, you quit at the Heroes Reborn.
Oh yeah. Oh, I just bought old comics after that in old collections. Heroes Reborn really just put the nail in the coffin for me, just because I was like, we were told at that time, this is the new Marvel and this is going to be what we're going forward with. So
Yeah,
I
I
said to
think
myself, you just took all of my collection and made it completely useless, because all of those backstories no longer apply. I'm just like, goodbye.
And once again, everyone's surprised. This is why, the people, when they don't believe in their stories anymore, in their characters, in the original mission of what this was all about, everything's going to slowly crumble and rot. And that's exactly what happened. If you don't believe in the core fundamentals of what these characters were, and also what the business, the comic books were in general, how could it survive? It won't. It'll just slowly rot. And there you go.
So what did you do as an intern then?
I was in not the bullpen. I was in production. I was working in production. There's a couple of comics there with my name on it. Production by Geronimo, Robert Geronimo. So they're out there somewhere. Only a handful, but I have them. I have a couple of copies. Yeah. That was fun, and then sometimes it would be a meeting. I had to go help out an editor or something like that. You know what I mean? And it was just it was cool. I had to write. I think it was for 2 issues or 1. I wrote a recap. I helped one of the editor assistants write the recap, and we had some fun. So there was some good things about it. Believe me, because it was like, wow, I'm doing this thing. But then after that, I was like, this part is not for me. Because we're all the artists, we're all the writers. That's at that point, they were gone. There was no bullpen anymore. You know what I mean? In that respect. So
yeah, there was no bullpen since the 50s. Like as a kid, when I was like the Marvel bullpen, I couldn't help but picture I just picture like Jack Kirby's over here smoking a cigar, and John Buscema's over here, and they're looking at, hey, Wally, what are you drawing? And Stan Lee's just walking around going, okay, the Avengers do this. Then he goes over here, doing this, but.
Must have been tense, though. I have to say, I can only imagine. Must have been fun, but also very tense.
But that never happened. It was
when you go in there,
Marvel bullpen in Atlas Comics. But by the time Marvel came, they were all working from home. I met this old timer, Arthur Tripp. He's one of the earliest subscribers on my channel. We went and had lunch. He was what they called a chipmunk. They were kids that they would go to Marvel, the headquarters, and Stan Lee would give them tickets for the Long Island Railroad, and they would give them a big envelope. They would be like, okay, kid, go to Jack's house and collect the art. And that kid would go to Jack Kirby's house, go to Jack Kirby's basement, and wherever Jack Kirby lived in Long Island, collect all the art, talk to him or whatever, and then go back to Marvel. He had a round trip ticket, and that's what they did. Okay, you back? Okay, now go over to John Buscema's house and over here. And it's funny because I remember in a few of those Marvel bullpens, they talked about the chipmunks, not Alvin and Theodore, but these kids are woodchucks, they called them.
They were called wood. Interesting. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, that was before the internet and things like that. And post office was a lot of art got lost in the mail. So, you know what I mean?
Right. So they couldn't risk it.
So they gave.
So let's send some children to go get it.
Yeah, little child labor, hard. You understand that little builds character, right? It's either the coal mines or you're riding the Long Island Railroad. What your choice, kid?
You want to collect art from Jack Kirby on the railroad?
All of these kids were 14-year-olds who loved comics that were trying to
get in. Yeah,
you know what I mean? That I know Arthur told me he wrote a couple of issues. He ghost wrote a couple of issues of Green Lantern and stuff for other guys.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Bygone days, the old days. But can you imagine that? Like, I went to Jack Kirby's house. I went to Roy Thomas's house to pick up a script.
Yeah.
He said he met Steve Ditko a few times.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Wild. Wow.
2099 turned me off. Came back for Frank Cho until they fired him. Yeah. Why did they fire Frank Cho? Because he was. I think he drew too sexy of a woman. The Clone Saga ended my mom. Wow. A lot of I thought I quit too soon. Turns out I was like one of the last holdouts, because 2015. It was
wow. You went pretty long.
Yeah.
Rob, I have to ask you about your art style before we go on to anything else. Sure. I find I love your art style, because of the
Thank you.
simplicity of it. For me, that is comic books. I think that
Thank you.
comic books today is just too complicated. The art
Yep.
and especially the color palette is much too complicated,
I
and it's
agree.
visually confusing.
hmm
And I love simplistic art. I would say one of the best would be like Paul Smith in my mind for
yeah.
simplicity. And your art sort of reminds me of that thing of Paul Smith and his
Thank you.
beautiful work on X-Men. But do you think? Well, yeah, I guess you nodded and said yes, but that the simplicity is what is needed to bring back really the comic book reader. Simplicity in the art.
Simplicity in the art. I think. Well, I think if anything, I don't know if it's exactly simplicity, but it's seeing something that feels unique,
Stylization.
exclusive. Yeah, exclusive to the artist.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that's very frustrating is that a lot of this stuff all looks the same.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't really see that artistic voice. You know, it just feels like
Well,
everything
they don't give
feels
them enough time. The runs, you know, we used to have like John Byrne with the X-Men for 10 years.
Oh, sure.
Now you got 4 or 5 issues if you're lucky with the same art team.
Right, but like a lot of the artists and the teams, they have very similar look to them. You know what I mean? And that's the thing too. Like at least like all right, if I'm gonna get for me, like I was always fascinated by Frank Miller because his art looked like Frank Miller.
Right.
And all right, it wasn't, I'm just gonna say maybe like Jim Lee, right? But it was Frank Miller. And it was unmistakably Frank Miller. And that's something I was much more interested in. And I think that's the kind of stuff we need to get back to a little bit, where we can be fearless in our storytelling and the artwork, and that's why today the stuff that comes out just feels so lifeless, so hollow, there's nothing to it. And whereas with manga, right, the reason these young people are so attracted to it is it's hip, very hip.
Yeah.
So you want to be in, right? So, if you don't know who Chainsaw Man is, you better go read it because everybody's talking about it and you don't want to be that guy who doesn't know about it. You know what I mean? So, but also those stories and those artists, they're very unique. They're unique to that creator. They're looking for what that creator is going to make next. And the style looks unique. The characters are unique. Whereas stuff we're making now is just regurgitated, lifeless stuff. And I think that's something we really need to get back to is creative expression in the art and the writing. And I don't think it's going to happen with the current companies.
I think the modern batch of writers, their heart's not in it. They're not lifers.
Right.
I think if anybody at Marvel or DC right now got offered a Netflix deal, boom, they would leave their comic book unfinished. You'd see that smoke cloud like in the comics, in the cartoons, just dissipating in the air, boom, and a chair spinning around. See you, suckers.
Right, exactly.
I think what you said too is I heard something that was more Hollywood and visual production for their monsters and things like that. The blessing and the curse of the internet is that for small producers like me, we can deal with people all over the world, which is great. But for large producers, they're saying that you have a select group of people that are going to do these kinds of visual effects. And now they all know each other and talk to each other. Everything looks the same.
The same. And that's the thing too, is that nobody wants to take risks. That's the other thing. No one wants to take risks. At the end of the day, right, manga may look like manga and you'll see some variations in the styles, but the stories are wild. They're out there. There's a guy with a chainsaw. And they're what?
They're all genres. There's nurse manga.
Yeah, exactly. There's basketball manga. You know what I mean?
There's a manga about a grandfather and his kid going fishing.
Yes. Right.
You know what I mean? It's one creator, it's one story, or one creative team, and they stay consistent. And for the most part, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and an end. So if the father turned around or the grandfather turned around and drowns the kid in the middle of a fishing trip, he ain't going to come back from the multiverse.
John. My goodness, that took a turn.
This cooking manga, you're absolutely right.
Yes, yeah. And that's the thing. That's the difference. It's much more interesting. It's much more fearless. Now, again, there is a visual tradition they are adhering to, which is very important because that is very important to their tradition, especially honoring the creator of, I would say the real father of manga was the one who created Astro Boy. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. Oh, shame on me. But really, he established that look, and they're very content with this style that is uniquely theirs, right? But us, it just we lack that creative vision and that creative voice, and also the stuff that's being put out.
We're forgetting the big thing is manga is incredibly competitive.
Oh yeah.
Like, what do they have? Those shonen magazines where they're like a phone book size, and then the ones that do the best get their own series.
That's what I mean too. Yeah, that's they have also the revenue coming in for those volumes too. But also, who wants a little floppy? You know what I mean? That costs how much money? That's the other problem. How much money are these floppies when you can go get how many chapters of one manga, and it's triple, quadruple the content,
and you could start at volume 1, and you can go to volume 2.
There you go, right?
3.
That's another thing.
I'm into the X-Men. You could start at X-Men 1. Which one?
Which one?
Reboot from this one, or the reboot from? There's 3 reboots in the same year.
Exactly. Yeah.
They never should have done away with the numbers. Never should have done away with the numbers.
I know. And that was largely also, I have to say, Diamond's fault, because they wanted, and they were pushing Alterna all the time. Okay, new number 3, new series now. We'll finish 3 new mini series. That's what the comic shops want. That's what the comic shops want. And it was like, come on, we want to do numbers. That's why when Pete, he severed that, and we were like, that's it. He was like, we're doing numbers. Let's go to 100.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's
fun. And I think I told this story. I went to a free comic book day, and the place was packed, and I was talking to a father. He's like, my daughter's into comics. I was like, do you mind if I talk to your daughter? I didn't want to be an old guy talking to some young girl. But she was 16 years old. She got into comics, and she said the biggest problem with comics is all the renumbering. She doesn't know where to start.
Oh, sure.
She goes, I liked, like, in the 90s and the 80s, like, if I got Thor 147, and then in the bottom that said, Thor fought the Juggernaut in issue 346.
That's right.
I did the math. I knew it was 9 months ago. I could go back. I could figure out the price of it all before I even went to the comic book. It was so easy. She goes, trying to keep track of just Captain America is impossible.
Exactly. And who needs the headache? There's enough headaches with life. You don't need that for your entertainment. And that's the thing. People want their stuff simple. Life is already so complicated. Let me just start at number 1.
Right.
And that's the thing. So,
if I would have said, like, okay, we keep the legacy number, for lack of a better term, but then you could number, like, the seasons or whatever. Like,
sure, yeah, like, you could do that. You could do that.
What do I know?
No, I know. That's a good suggestion, but it's true. So, to your point, that's what I believe. Is needed to try, and that's the thing, though. I was saying this on one of my streams too. And then I don't know the answer to this. This I don't know the answer to. But how do we make comics? Forget the movies. I could care less about the movies. How do we make them cool again? Because what happens is when something gets so big and accepted by popular culture, you know what I mean? It's not cool anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just like video games, a lot of the stuff is just it's not kind of counterculture, when you think of EC Comics,
I remember working at a comic book store, and kids used to, there was this one girl that would come into the comic book store, and it was just understood. She buys the comics, she goes into the bathroom, and what she was literally doing was stuffing the comics in her clothes because her dad didn't want her reading comics because comics were trash. She was a college professor.
Right.
I mean, and we just...
Are you serious? I thought you were joking.
No, it was serious. Like, she would go home and smuggle comics into her house. And then there was other kids who were just like, I would see them in school, and they were like, don't, I don't want to explain to people that I know you from the comic book store.
Right.
But they didn't want to get teased. But the comics were so good. Like, now, I had a birthday party a couple of years ago, and my buddy brought his girlfriend, and she wore a Harley Quinn shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, Harley Quinn's not cool anymore.
That's what
flavor of the week chick just is wearing a Harley Quinn shirt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And to answer, so Yang Yan Zhao, good to see you, man. He says you make them underground. I agree. But the thing that's difficult is that, how do you filter through the
And then
crazy
how do you market that?
noise? All right, how do you market it? So I believe this is the underground. I believe this is, but I think, in my opinion, and now obviously this is not the definitive answer because I'm figuring this out as well. And I think for indie guys, it's longevity. It's to keep pushing and go and show that you're serious. Because I think in today's time, um, everyone feels like you're not fully committed. Well, why should I stick around and follow this
Right. It's
guy's
a big,
YouTube
yeah.
channel? Right. Because I want to be invested and be disappointed again. You know what I mean? Why should I subscribe to this guy's YouTube channel? Is he going to get me all hooked? And is he going to make a couple of videos and then that's it? I'm never going to hear from him. I want to see that these guys are committed and they're serious. Right. Exactly. Metatron Cube. 6 issues and done. Oh, I'm done. Or they do an Indiegogo. I take the money and go. So people have been burned. People have been burned big time and still waiting for books. Still waiting. You know what I mean?
So, well, just so you know, guys, we started on issue 2 of Heroic Tales.
You started on 2, no 1?
No, number 1 is the campaign for number 1 is still active.
Oh, okay.
It's the only thing that's preventing it from being done is the colorist dad had an open heart surgery. What am I going to do?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But we're 95% done. We are already Renzo's up to page 7 of issue 2. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I'm in it, but I also understand if people I don't want to back it until he delivers.
Oh yeah, no,
like there's been a lot of, and I don't. This is an expensive way to make a couple of $100, but I do think that some people, through enthusiasm, through naivety, they bite off more than they can chew.
Oh, I see it all the time.
Yeah, I can understand
all the time. I see it all the time.
But I don't think there's any evilness or deception being made. If there's deception, it's people thinking that
shame on them if it is that, and I wouldn't put it past people, but I think that's what happens. Sometimes people think this is so easy. It happens all the time. They think this is so easy. I'm going to make a comic. I have people that I know go, when I see you doing Blood Realm, you're going to be up to issue 18. I could do that. I'm not kidding. I was sitting there. I looked at the guy. I was like, really? Yeah. No, I could do that. I can do that. No problem. And I said, it's one thing to have the idea and the big dream, but can you execute it and stick with it? And,
right.
Are you going to work those hours when you come home from work to work again on this? How much do you love this? And I think that's what I mean with the longevity. I think it's going to reach a certain point where the dust is going to settle after all this. And who's still around, in my opinion?
Yeah.
Who's serious? Who's here because they love this stuff? Right.
Okay. Question for both of you then, because, there's this old story for the very first days of Image, where the guys were working in basically like a strip mall, and all the rest of the people that were working in the strip mall would come along and say, "Hey guys, come on, we're all going out for pizza." And they'd say, "No, we're working on our comic." No, I don't want to go out. I'm working on my comic. For me, when I have a chance to work on my comic, that's downtime. That's not work.
Right. Well, it is work, though. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I mean, yes, it is work, but I mean, for me, it's like exciting work.
Well, I'm never going to turn down pizza. I'm just leaving that out.
You got me there. Yeah, that's true. That's a tough one. That is a tough one, especially depending on the pizzeria and the type of slice it is. But but even the moments when it is work, that's the stuff that is
it's
tough
fun
to
work.
push through. It's just like today. Today was not fun. Like I was up early and I was drawing these pages and I was tired. I wasn't, I slept. I couldn't sleep last night, but I had to push through because I want to get this done and I want to make the best product. Now, I'm happy I did, but sometimes it isn't fun. And that's the reality of it. Sometimes it's absolutely fantastic, and then sometimes it can be really grueling, but you love it enough to endure the grueling parts. You know what I mean? It's important. You know what I mean? Because some people I know who want to do this think that I'm just kicking my feet up and I'm just
doodling away, whistling.
Exactly. Doodling away, whistling. You know what I mean? No sweat. You know what I mean? No, it is. Sometimes, man, when you're working on a page and you got to do it over 5 times to get it right, I don't
It
want
sounds
to.
like, honestly, it makes me think of, I have a novel manuscript which I wrote, and it was 500 pages. And we had to edit it down. Like, we edited it 4 or 5 times, did it down to about 330. But the thing was that with all of that work, and I still haven't
Right.
gotten it published, but still, when I got
Sure.
to the climax of writing the darn thing, I
Mhm.
was excited. Like, I mean, writing the thing, that was the most exciting part of, like, I couldn't figure
Yeah.
out how in the world I got that excited about the fact that I was writing the climax for this
You got
entire thing.
there,
Yeah.
right?
I
If
mean,
you got
all that
there.
work, and I got to this point. That was beautiful. And
Yeah.
I try to get that same thing with when I write the scripts for my comics as well.
Right, exactly. No, that's the stuff too. You push through, and then you get to that moment in the story that has been making this all worth it. That you're like, I want to get to this part. When I get here, and then when you're there, and you're like, I got through all that stuff to get to this moment that inspired me to tell this story from the beginning. Oh, that feels good.
Must have been
Feels good.
cool too to get your comic in your hand. Your first issue,
Oh,
your first comic.
oh, it was surreal. It was surreal. But you know what's funny though? It was so surreal. It was so exciting, right? But then I was like, I got work to do because I want to tell. I'm going to be in this for the long haul. You know what I mean? I knew it. I knew it wasn't going to be just okay. It's not just going to. Like the reality hit. It's not just going to be 3 issues. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, 18 issues is a big deal in this day and age.
I know.
I
know it's true.
It's I mean, even if it was just a Marvel or DC or an Image comic, it's a big deal. But Alterna is for a while it was like a hybrid of indie and mainstream. Now it's full on indie.
Now it's full on indie. Yeah.
You're one of the longest running indie comics. Think about that.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's weird when I joined Alterna and I was the rookie and all these other guys were welcoming me and I was talking to them and we were building relationships and I just saw some of them that just like, man, this is a lot of work, Rob. I'm gonna, it's not for me anymore. And I see that, I've seen some guys who they lost the fire or they had fire for 5 issues. And then they were like, man, I don't know if I can keep this stuff up. This is grueling. You know what I mean?
Well,
but
yeah,
I couldn't do anything else.
You got to beat Dave Sims' run.
What was his run again? That was G.I. Joe, right?
300 issues on Cerberus.
Cerberus. 300 issues.
And now your first crossover is coming.
Yes, I'm really excited about that, and it's I'm honored. I'm honored to do this with Pete. I really am. It's something that Alterna creators and we've been talking for a while, but when you see guys come and go constantly, you need someone who's going to prove that they're going to be there for a while. I'm not going anywhere with Alterna, and I'm totally down for this crossover. This is awesome.
For those of you who don't know what Rob's talking about, Pete Samedi, owner and head honcho of Alterna Comics, he has a comic called King Cryptid.
Yeah,
and that's Pete's dream comic, and Rob over here has Blood Realm.
Yeah,
they're gonna cross over somehow.
Yeah, we have a great. Oh, it was just so much fun. It was almost surreal doing it. I don't know. I felt like a kid again. Being on the phone, and we talked about our characters, and I could hear the enthusiasm from him. It was almost like, "Hey, come over and play with my toys," and I'll bring over.
I'm so glad you're saying this.
That's what it felt like, and it was like we were on the phone, and I must have been on the phone with him for almost 2 hours. I didn't even feel like it, and we're bouncing ideas off, and we're talking about what we're gonna do, what characters are gonna meet in the Blood Realm universe, and everything like that. And that's when I realized I was like, I love this. Even though there's moments that sometimes I'm like, man, why didn't I just want to be a lawyer or something? A fireman or whatever, because my goodness, the ups and downs of this industry is insane. But then moments like that happen, and I'm just like, I remember.
I'm so glad you said this. First, I got to address a super chat, things that I don't do too often. So, Sound Engraver, RJ, I feel like I'm cheating on your girl over here.
I agree, Sound Engraver.
Saver, make your art unique to you. Thank you for the talk, and thank you for $2. All money from this channel goes to my comic book. So thank you.
Great. Awesome.
And I also I don't ask for super chats. I just feel like I'm not an OnlyFans girl. So thank you, Sound Engraver.
You're not, John? Damn.
Yeah.
Anybody want talking about it? Hit me up. I got beautiful feet. My mom told me I got beautiful feet.
He's got a nice.
But I want to address what you were saying about you felt like a kid. I don't know if anybody watched yesterday. I did my series. I love doing the series. Two Beards, One Comic with Kelty Shannon. And
Oh, cool.
And we talked about Marvel Secret Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And he never read it before, so he's reading it for the first time. So it's really cool to get a professional comic book artist's opinion.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah, and he was saying, he goes, it's very childlike in the best sense of the word. He goes, I don't see this in a lot of modern comics. Like, I think that they're trying too hard to make comics adult, not in a porno sense, not in a dirty sense.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
But like for grown-ups, but we forget that it's the whole concept of superheroes really is a childlike power fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, and I totally agree, that child whimsiness is almost embarrassing to a lot of people in comics today. And I think we need to bring it back. And that, to be self-serving, that's one of the things I want to do with Heroic Tales is I want, like, I'm a 56-year-old man, but I hope when you read this, you're going to get like, okay, John still has this childhood fire in him.
Right. Yeah. You want to feel the fire and not rely on nostalgia. That's the biggest thing today, right? Right. You want someone to read your stuff. And what I hope from when someone reads my stuff is that when they read it, they go, man, he loves this and he's having so much damn fun. He's working hard through this, but he's having so much fun. You don't want to bait people with nostalgia, which is what's everywhere right now, because these people don't have the fire, or they lost the fire while they were creating it, right? So you want people to feel that fire.
I just want to address this comment.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
On Dave Sim has the record for 300 consecutive comics by him. So it's a continuous, unbroken line of comics.
Oh, just by Dave's.
Before that, the record was 102 issues with Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. That was 102 issues by consecutive team. The inkers changed and stuff like that. But it was so even though Spawn has reached 300 issues, it's not 300 consecutive issues by one creative team, Todd McFarlane. There's been Greg Capullo and a whole bunch of other artists.
Right.
So I know that the second longest continuous run now is Eric Larson on Savage Dragon, and he is obsessed with beating Dave Sim, to the point where I think it destroyed his career, because there's what Savage Dragon was, it sell like less than 2,000 copies a month now. Dude, you used to be like the head honcho in comic books. You were second to Todd McFarlane, and I don't know. I think there's something not quite there. And ElfQuest has a lot of issues, but it's not Wendy and Richard Pini. But anyway, that was a tangent.
Oh, that's all right. Awesome.
Yeah. RJ, I'm curious about what you think about that. Do you think comic books have lost that like childlike whimsiness?
Definitely. That's why that every one of my comics says for all ages on it, because it's for all ages. I want a child to be able to read the book and find it exciting, and an adult to be able to read the book and find it fascinating, because you need to be able to straddle that middle ground. But you need to be able, again, to go all the way back down to, I'm learning to read. I can follow along with the sequential art. That's what I did when I was a kid, right? It was like my brothers, Jack Kirby and Frank Miller, Captain America and Daredevil. That's what I was going through. And I was, I was like you, John. My brothers would make fun of me because I didn't read the words. And that's why
I didn't read the words either.
So, but
that's funny.
I couldn't read until comics. That's what RJ was goofing on me. Like, reading was, you don't do math when you're not in school. Why are you going to read when you're not in school? That's a school activity. You know what I mean?
That's
solving
true.
math problems at home. Hey, reading at home.
So some people like that. There's some crazy out there.
But then comic books came along, and I realized comics reading is something that is fun, and I never stopped.
Sure. I guess the answer to your question earlier, Rob, is probably how do we make comics cool again? Is you got to make it so that, how do I put this? You got to make it so that the
jerks don't want to get in on it. Get rid of the jerks.
Well, that too, but I mean, it's I'm going to slap down my money. And if you get a kid who doesn't have, well, I suppose, I don't know about today, but how much money kids have today, but you got a kid who's willing to slap down his money and doesn't have a whole lot of money and say, I choose this as my entertainment. that's the cool factor. I mean, you know, to me, that's the cool factor because you had a bunch of guys together and you were, you know, at my comic shop, there are various kinds of people, but I mean, you're all willing to slap down your money for X-Men. I mean, it was something that tied you together, and it was something that you could get together, and guys, older guys who come in and buy X-Men, certainly. But I mean, you got to go down to that level of kids choosing it for themselves. That's what makes it cool, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, right.
absolutely.
And you know, and how you do that is by telling a powerful story, or and create engaging characters. You know, characters that they can latch onto. You know, it not be the flavor of the week because of what's trending on X. That's the biggest thing. Chasing a trend
Yeah,
because that's what's trending right now. Let me jump on that. Nope. The second
yeah.
before you even put
I
pen
guarantee,
to paper,
like,
already out.
in Heroic Tales #2, there's going to be a chapter on a character, the Hawk Tuah girl, or something like that. You know, that just doesn't work. Like super topical stuff, it ruins it. It
It
pulls you out.
ruins it. It ruins
You
it.
could read,
You
you could
have
read
to
some
have
of those
those
comics
time.
from the '70s and '80s, and
Right.
you you get all the references. You get it all because it like this comic right here. I love collecting '70s and era books. I find that the writers of the time had a grounded approach in a mature way, but still maintained that whimsy and escapism.
Because they were storytellers, right? Hey, Kevin, good to see you. Yeah, that's exactly it. They were storytellers,
Yeah,
and
and it reminds me of when I was reading like X-Men, because I would get back to as early as I could with X-Men. And as a kid, I was like, why in the world would these characters do this? Why in the world would Scott not, you know, confess his feelings for Jean Grey if he feels that way? And, you know, I just didn't understand it, but I love the story. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I understood it. But you know, you're able to carry that story forward all the way through from being a child to being an adult and understand it in a different way.
right, right. No, it's true. And we have to go back to, as I mentioned, even on my channel, those eternal themes that were so profound and resonated with people back
Definitely.
since the legend of the fall of Troy. You know, these are things that we still latch on to this day, and we're tired right now. Right now, we've been entering, I would say, maybe the late '80s. I would say '90s. The deconstruction, constant
Yep.
deconstruction. Well, now we deconstructed it so much. Well, what is it now? We forgot what a comic is. We forgot what storytelling is. And we need to go back to the fundamentals. And in my opinion, for me, my inspiration is reading the Odyssey right now. You know,
Yep.
it's reading history. You know,
I
that's the,
always I
that's it.
always go back to on my channel because my channel and my books are all centered around the traditional idea of a virtuous hero, and I go back to
Mhm.
Aristotle. I go back
Yep.
and you know, and I go back to the Greeks, and I use that as my example, right?
You have
You
to.
know,
You have to. And you know, that's it. You know, and it's going to take time. We have an uphill battle, you
oh yeah,
know, but that's why you need people who love this. And that's it right now. You need people. That's right. Yeah, Death Deal. Absolutely. Hey, what's going on, man? Dante's Inferno. 100%. Couldn't agree more. Dante's Inferno. And these are
If I
things we need
make
to
it to
get back
issue
to.
25 or so, you'll see my take on Dante's Inferno.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
I
Yeah,
love this comment because this guy Kevin Thomas. You just
he's the
described
man.
Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby was fought in the war. He had children. He had a business, but he never lost that childlike, whimsical, like Reed Commandy or RJ, your favorite Omac. You know, it took the mind. It took an adult talent to draw that, but it took like the imagination of a child to bring it to create it in the first place. I don't
Right.
know if I'm being eloquently explaining my thoughts,
No, I know what you mean. Yeah,
but I
absolutely.
think the modern, like, the problem is a lot of these modern writers and a lot of that they still are children.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, I was just gonna say,
you know,
yeah,
when you know, when you don't have I don't want to say that these people
a
don't have art.
well-lived life.
Yeah, exactly. You know, experience certain things. You know, I think it's a little bit more difficult for younger writers. You know, that's why you got to go back to that stuff. I think it's so important. But you know, that's the thing. This has happened before with other mediums. You know, art is the big one where art, a canvas was a window into another world. That's exactly what art was. You look at a painting and it's supposed to transport you to whatever that is, where you feel as if it's happening before your eyes and you can step into the frame and enter this world. And then you have Picasso who comes in and goes, no, it's not. No perspective, no depth, no shading, nothing, right? Now, where do you go from there? Well, you keep deconstructing to the point where now art is what? What could it be? You have a urinal that's pulled from the wall and put in a gallery. You know what I mean? So where do you go from there? So that's the thing
I'm
now.
not a big fan of a lot of modern art, to be honest.
Yeah, neither am I. You know what I mean? But
I got the Unit 44.
That's what we did to superheroes. That was what we did to these characters.
Yeah. You know, like everybody wants to be the, Alan Moore made the greatest comic of all time, Watchmen. And I know RJ's not a big fan of it.
Man of his time. You may not like Picasso, but he was the first to do what he did.
And he was a genius, and you can't copy him. So do your own thing. You know what I mean? Like, don't copy the Watchmen. You're not Alan Moore. You're not Frank Miller. You're Rob Geronimo. You're doing your thing, and I like it. RJ's doing his thing. I'm going to try to do my own thing. Modern art is a CIA psyop. Fight me. Don't get me started on the CIA.
Oh no.
Yeah. Wes Locker, he gets it. He's a goofy guy. He's funny.
He's having fun. Having fun. Well, now today's period, they call it contemporary art, not even modern art. So contemporary art. So I've seen some interesting stuff at the galleries in New York City. That's the other thing too. Kids don't go to the galleries anymore. So
why bother?
Exactly, and that's the thing now, unfortunately, with comic book shops, right? It's
funny. My wife and I were on my front lawn watching the 4th in my neighborhood, the 4th of July. It's just, it's beautiful. It gets me emotional. Just fireworks everywhere, right to my front yard. But we were watching all the kids hanging out, shooting fireworks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the 7th of July, there's no kids playing in the street.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Everybody's home playing video games. And I know I'm going to catch hell for saying this, but it's like, turn off your video games. Go outside.
I don't even think they're playing video games anymore, to be honest with you. They're just on their phone, on TikTok. I'll be honest with you. The video game thing is kind of dying a bit, in my opinion.
Really?
I think it's there. But
how clueless I am.
It's that TikTok.
It's those damn stuff. TikTokers. Those
short videos that give them short attention span, where now, doom scrolling. Yeah, that's what they call it, right, Sark? Yeah, there you go, Metatron. Death scrolling. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's not that they don't have attention span.
I'm at work now. We're waiting for a delivery, and we can't get back to work. And next thing you know, we're all adults, and we're all looking at our phone. Hey, we're just as bad.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So it's going to take time, though.
Let me throw this out to you, Rob, because you had mentioned this. Do you know who Father Mike Schmidt is?
Yes, I do. I've seen him on YouTube.
He has a really good talk about gap time and how creativity comes from gap time. Those useless bits of your existence where you don't have anything to do and you just think about things.
Yes, we called that daydreaming.
Yeah.
Daydreaming is where I came up with 90% of my stories. I'm driving someplace. I don't like the song on the radio, and now I'm just like,
yeah.
Absolutely. And I gotta say, since I got my cell phone, and my wife calls me out on it all the time, I'm not daydreaming. Like I used to fill up my notebook with notes for my role-playing games. Since I got the cell phone 5 years ago, I haven't filled up anything.
It's powerful. It's powerful. It's designed. Right. It's designed to do that, to distract you. It's a very, very powerful force. Don't underestimate it. It's a powerful force.
Yes.
It takes every ounce of you to say no.
I take that hour drive to get to somewhere, and I actually just turn everything off, and I think about my stories, about stuff that I can write. It is the most beautiful thing in the world to have time to do that, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what's his name? Oh my God, the guy who wrote Christmas Carol, shame on me. Charles Dickens. All his great ideas were during long walks. He would take a little notepad with him and he would walk. That's what he would do. Walk around the neighborhood, and he would just sit there and just walk and stroll, and he would have his pad with him and he would write. And I'll be honest, that's what I do most of the time. Whenever I'm like stuck, right? I can't figure out what to do. Oh my God. I just go for my walks. That's it. I go for the hike. And I got that from him.
Boredom is good for you. You know what I mean? Like my grandparents lived 4 hours upstate, and you sit in a station wagon with 7 kids, your parents, my mom's smoking, dad's listening to doo-wops, and
Yeah,
just sitting in the daydreaming, you know what I mean? Pretending I'm
that's it.
Spider-Man or whatever. Do you
That's
think,
it.
like my friends, their kids, they got like iPads in their cars.
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna make the next Spider-Man now? Because
Yeah. Give them a sketchbook. That's the thing that blows my mind. Give them a sketchbook. Give them a toy. Give them an action figure.
I'm not a father, Rob. You don't have.
I don't.
You're gonna be a dad soon, right?
No, that's
Oh, okay.
somebody else. Yeah.
Okay, but
yeah.
RJ, you're a father, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Do your kids play with toys, or are they adults? I don't even know.
Oh no. Well, I'm very. We never had a television, and they didn't have a computer until they were teenagers. So they played
That's
with
right.
a lot.
Your
Of
kids
toys.
play with rocks and dirt. I forgot about that.
No, we got a lot of dinosaur toys, and well, we used
Nice.
to, anyways, and a lot of board games. That was our
Nice. That's
entertainment.
great. That's great.
So we got 53 people in the chat right now. If you're a parent, tell me, do your kids play video games all day? Do they play with action figures? Do they play puzzles, board games? Because I played like Secret Wars.
Mhm.
This was how I played with the kid. I had all my action figures. Luke
problem is
fighting Spider-Man. And,
kids don't know how to play anymore, and that's what's really difficult too, because why play when you have something like an app or some type of not quite an audiobook, but something that's going to do it all for you. You don't have to exercise that part of the brain. And the simple act of playing is what ignites imagination. For me, it was always, when I was young, it was Star Wars toys, from the late 70s, right? And then the early, and then they relaunched them again in the 90s, and Masters of the Universe figures, GI Joes. Like, I would mash it all together.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I would come up with stories. It was absolutely crucial. That was so important to my creative development.
Micronauts were meeting Star Wars, and we had to.
That's it. I would have to, dinosaurs coming out. They went to a dinosaur planet, and that's it. And that's what it's about. The simple act of playing, which was important for the ancients as well. That's what people don't understand. And that even in Mesoamerica and even in ancient Greece, we found toys of warriors that children would play with. So that goes to show you how important this was. And now when we take that away, now what happens now? Right? What do you consume? Can you make anything anymore? Look how we're slowly losing all of this incredible creativity when you look at the art of the periods previous.
Oh wow. Movie World Comics is only 16. I just assume all people watching my stuff are old as the hill. So that's cool to know that I got at least one 16-year-old viewer.
Right.
Yep. And a few people tell me they watch my stuff with their kids because I try not to curse, and there's
I don't. Yeah.
Nudity or anything. Every once in a while, something slips out.
When you just can't control it.
In the excitement or whatever.
The New Yorker comes out.
Yeah. But I forget, because I know RJ wanted to play D&D, but his brothers. But did you ever play role-playing games?
No, I did not. I know people who did. They were older than me when I was young, but I was never introduced. I did have one type of game like that. I think it was similar. It was called Dragon Strike when I was young. It came with a VHS tape.
Okay.
It was fun. It was really cool. But me, I wanted to play with toys. I just wanted to play with action figures and come up with stories. And then
I know,
characters.
Making up your own stories and stuff. Yeah.
You can do that with that too, right? That's what I've seen.
I remember I gave a Batman board game to a nephew. Mm-hmm. And he whipped it up, saw Batman, he was all excited. And he looked at it, he goes, "This isn't a video game." And he literally threw it on the ground.
And then you told them, "You're no nephew of mine."
No, I didn't say anything, but as that Ghostbuster symbol, just we're done, kid. You're never getting a gift from me again.
But wait, let me make this. Wait, did you just give him the board?
No, it was a Batman and Robin with Catwoman and Joker board game.
Oh.
It's like a tactical miniatures game.
I don't know why I just visualized you just giving him this board.
And they were like, "Oh,
imagine this is a board game. Have fun."
No, it was, it was a cool board game. I have it over there. My wife and I played it,
Oh man. How old is he?
I don't even know how old was he when I gave him that 6?
No, he's older than that. He's about 7 or 8.
7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just like, all right, there you go.
Well, you know what? Maybe he won't remember it. You re-gift it. You just got to pull that Seinfeld and be
I'm
a re-gifter.
not stubborn. All I know is, like, my uncles never gave me anything cool. Like, if I got a gift, it was like socks or something like that, and I had to pretend I like it. You know,
all the time. Even when I already have the toy, I'd be like, "Oh, I don't have this."
Yeah. Oh, wow! You just what I wanted. Socks. Thank you. And
I'll put them over the ones I have now.
RJ, you're old school. Could you imagine if you did that to your uncle, threw the gift on the ground? Man, my father would have stomped me into non-existence in front of everybody.
Right.
A little bit of child abuse never hurt anybody, you know?
Oh, my goodness.
To be polite. What game was it? It was Batman Funkoverse, which sounds bad, but it's actually a good introduction tacticals miniatures game for younger people.
Interesting. I did play Monopoly. I always enjoyed Monopoly when I was a kid.
All right, well, I have to run here, guys, just because my stream just started a couple of minutes ago. But it's wonderful to meet you, Rob.
Yes,
I'm glad
pleasure.
hopefully we'll get you back someday, because
you got to come back and actually talk about like medieval
the comic.
I would love that. Let's set it up. I love chatting with you guys. This was an absolute blast. I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, I will see you both later. Thank you very much for coming.
We'll stay for just to throw out your links. You know, you got
now he's gone. No.
Yeah, like now that RJ's gone, he's a jerk. No, I couldn't wait for you to meet RJ because but
it was fun discussion. Great questions.
Medieval knowledge, college level philosophy. Yeah. I think he has I forget what it was, but I think he has theology and philosophy are his majors.
Awesome.
So you and him would have been hit it off. But anyway, I got to go because I'm going to be on the Dojo Con. It's killing me that I can't, but I'll put.
Okay. I think I've been on that before
on Twitter. I'm going to be on at 10 o'clock, but they want me to come on and and prep with them. So I got to go. But you have Blood Realm on Indiegogo right now. I can't find the link, so I'm just going to repost it over here.
Put it in the private. I didn't.
Yeah,
it's in there.
Go to the private chat. And I'm going to put it in the public chat right here, so everybody can find it one more time.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the latest chapter in the Blood Realm series. If you're new to the series, you can literally start with these issues because it's the first in the timeline, chronologically speaking.
But you could also get all your back issues at Alterna, and they're dirt cheap. Not cheap. They're dirt inexpensive. We'll say that.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. It's very important.
Yeah, I was told not to say cheap. Yeah. But I got to get going. And Rob, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It's a blast.
Oh, and I'll never forgive you for bumping out the Patriarch in the Iron Age Icons card set. Thanks a lot.
Listen, it was just business.
I know.
It's business.
I was
personal.
I know. I'm teasing you, but to lose to Chiron Morville is fine because my comic's not even out yet. Like I didn't deserve to win is the way I look at it. So I'm happy for you.
You're on a good start though if it's already there. So
awesome. Yeah. But thanks a lot. I'm gonna get going and see everybody. Check out Blood Realm, check out Crom the Destroyer, and please check out Heroic Tales. Thank you, everybody.
Bye everyone.
Oh, I got to end the stream. I can't just close out. That would ruin everything.